With tariff looming and experts warning about the threat of rising prices on many products, stores that sell secondhand items may see a rise in profits.
WIFR reporter Rhea Walters talks to Goodwill about the possible boost in sales.
Buying secondhand is definitely going to be like a big need for a lot of people.
From apparel to electronics and furniture, prices are expected to skyrocket because of tariffs. But one industry may benefit from the rise: secondhand stores and consignment shops.
People are turning to thrift not only for price, but they also do it as part of saving the planet and just the reuse, recycle.
Rockford resident Isaac Frazier says clothes are already too expensive, so he thrifts instead.
With the tariffs, with the cost of like imported goods and imported like clothing, like most clothing is manufactured elsewhere. So I will be buying all my clothes probably secondhand.
A 10% baseline tariff would exist on goods from other countries. For China, the rate would be 145%. Beloit resident Siona Shishak hopes those price hikes get people away from fast fashion sites.
People need to start considering where they buy their clothes, first of all.
1/3 of clothing and apparel bought in the U.S. over the past year was secondhand, according to a recent report by Capital One. Goodwill Vice President of Retail Craig Steege hopes shopping at thrift stores helps people avoid buyer's guilt.
I think we'll see that with kids' items. I think we'll continue to see it definitely in apparel and just throughout things that can help individuals in their everyday lives.
In the state line, Rhea Walters, WIFR News.
Online fast fashion retailers Shein and Temu have warned their American customers about price adjustments due to the recent changes in global trade rules and tariffs.